You've made it to Chiro Hustle Live. Sit back and learn from the greatest influencers in the profession.
This week's episode is brought to you by Clothes for Chiro, Posture Screen, Chiro Thin, Imaging Services, Zingit Solutions, Chiro Moguls, Rhino Coaching, Local Gold, Dr. Peter Goldman's Zone School of Healing, Go Get Talks, Mahalo Wellness, 5-Star Management, The Goodman Factor, Chiro Health USA, and Fit to Lift. Let's hustle.
Hey everybody, Jim Chester coming to you live. This is a sponsorship edition with Fit to Lift. If you guys have not heard of this brand, I urge you to click on that link above and to opt in. I'll let Bob tell you all about the opt-in and what he is offering to you. But welcome to the show, Bob.
Hey, how's it going?
Good, man. You're coming in from what part of South Dakota?
West side of the state, over by Mount Rushmore in the Black Hills, Rapid City.
Right on. And I am coming in from Grand Junction, which is in the Grand Valley on the western slope of Colorado. And I moved here for one reason, guys, and that was to hear the birds chirp. And this episode is going to be so full of content and information about data, statistics, and keeping a healthy workplace. And we're going to talk about a $12.6 billion industry, and that is chiropractic. So before we jump into this whole thing, let's touch on one topic first, and that is safety in the workplace. And what was the impetus behind creating Fit to Lift?
It really came from me being able to be of value to the employers in my area. And so this entire thing came up, and I couldn't figure out why I had to keep marketing $3,500, $5,500 a month in stuff and in screenings. And it's not the fact that stuff doesn't work, because it all works. You have to have a good mix of it. But this was to approach the side of it as far as be of value to the employers in your area so that they know who you are, what you do. You can get in front of their employees and start working with them. The biggest thing that I have seen is, like, when you do this, it's not this small scale, like for us, as far as like $3,000-$4,000 for a treatment plan for patients. Like, this is big deals, like huge money for them if they listen to you, and we have all the data that actually supports it. So that's the fun stuff.
Yeah. And I know that, creating a healthier workplace actually creates a better leverage for economy. And I know that you've done quite a bit of work with your training systems. Let's talk a little bit about the training systems that people get their hands on once they join your Fit to Lift program.
So the training, as far as it's 12 weeks of training, being able to learn how to go out and interact with employers. And one of the things, like, I had gone through a bunch of training from Dr. Brad Glowacki and his work with the employers. And it was about just how to get out there and just start talking the lingo and just start doing it. And it's naturally going to start to happen. But with our training, it's the tools that these employers actually want. And it's not the breath alcohol testing. It's not the DOT physicals. It's not that stuff. That stuff's super valuable, but it's not chiropractic as far as being able to instill that into the employees yet. So that's where this part comes in. And that's why I built the training, because how it came about was I work with a gold mine, and this gold mine, we've been able to work with them this is the 5th year, but we actually implemented things with them the last 3 years. And so what changes we were able to see there, and then all of a sudden they're like, hey, can you do this over in Nevada? And they have different locations. And now we're in conversations with like Coca-Cola and Butler Caterpillar and these big companies with 29 locations. And then another company that we are kind of sister related to works with these lumber companies with 45,000 employees. And all they did was implement these strategies using chiropractors into their workforce.
Yeah, I think that's really important, because so many times when we think about like keeping people healthy, they don't ever put chiropractic into the equation. They usually think about, if somebody has a slip and fall, go see the MD, get the referral for the meds. Next thing you know, there's a sick person that's not getting healthy, and they were never told the chiropractic story. And I think that, as we were having our pre-chat, we were discussing why it was so important for us to keep telling the story with Chiro Hustle. But it's also really important to start as a baseline operation and start telling the story within the 4 walls of these businesses. And it's not just buying them a warm lunch. It's not just buying them an opportunity to come in and see you. Now you're going in and you're training them, and now they build a relationship with you. And this builds safety and it builds relationship. And I know it probably wasn't easy for you to like start going out and branding this stuff. What was it like to go out there and start knocking doors and build relationships with these businesses in your communities?
Well, I'll be honest, like I struggled for 5 years. And when I started, nobody would catch on to it because I didn't have any data. I just had this philosophy of this is what it is. This is how it's happening. And then I ended up paying for training. Like I was paying $12,000 to be able to invest in myself, to be able to learn this work, because it's super important just having the idea of getting out there. And so then I started talking with more employers, and then finally they're like, hey, what's going on? Like, teach me some more about this. And so what we did was I started asking more questions with the employers, like, how can I be of value to you? And then I started looking into some grants. We had a couple of grants from the state of South Dakota, and then also one from federal grant, that I started to dig deeper into this. And I used that as a platform to go in and talk to these businesses and say, hey, we're worth a workforce development grant, economic development grant. And we've been able to work with employers in the area, and I have some questions to start asking you. And that's how Fit to Lift came about. It gave me this platform to just literally, I can walk into any employer and say, hey, I got questions, and I have this trust because I've got this grant behind me. And so that really, truly is what gave me the holy crap. And that was 7 years into practice. And at that point, like I had been out screening and doing everything. And I had 3 clinics. Like I had 3 satellites and 3 full-time clinics. And I wasn't being a bum, I promise. Like, it's hard to run 1 clinic, let alone 3. And so I still practice full-time. Like, we're going to see patients here in about 19 minutes. And you have to have a good practice. You have to have your philosophy solid. You have to have these good people you've learned from in the past, like Deed Harrison, Brad Glowacki, Billy DeMoss, like all these guys like feed you that drive and that energy. Now it's time for traction. Where is this hitting it? This company, the lumber company, within 12 months of implementing one damn thing, they saved themselves at 45,000 employees, 45% of their medical expenditures on workers' compensation in 12 months.
Yeah, one of the things you're saying there is stats and relationships and safety and bottom line and economy. And when we think about chiropractic, we have to change the damn conversation, and we have to make sense to people that it's not a conceptual thing that fixes you. It's a conceptual thing that makes people's lifestyle better. It improves them. Their, what do they call it? The activities of daily living. Those things improve. And if you want a healthier workforce and a work staff and a compliant system inside your office trainings, then you want to keep people into this model of a healthcare system, not a sick care system. And I think that we've been perpetuated into this idea that when somebody isn't feeling well, what do we say? Don't come in today. Well, when a chiropractor has that type of instance, they're like, get your butt to the clinic today because my immune system is strong and I want yours to be strong too. So I don't want you to cancel your appointment. I want you to make your appointment, and being sick to come see me is not an excuse.
Prime example. All right. Employee is hurt at work or hurt outside of work, and they're like, I'm calling in because I can't do my work, right? This employee, like, you instill into them that chiropractic belief. You know what? You can still be at work, sucker. It's what happens is you need to be able to make sure that their capacity can do the job safely. And then not only is that good for the individual, like outcomes and down the road and all that, what ends up happening is that ends up being a philosophy of chiropractic. I truly believe that. Like, stay moving. Don't put a cast on it and brace it. Don't go home and sit on the couch. Let's get you moving, doing something safe. Keep you at work. That's what this ends up building trust with the employer. So,
and what you're saying there, that I'm just going to talk a little bit more molecular, is like the blood is your health. And when you go sedentary and you're not moving the blood, it doesn't improve health. It actually sedates the health, and it actually stops the body from healing quicker. So, rest and digest is important, but it's not the only thing that matters. You have to obviously put motion back into the other part of the body rather than live sedentary and rest too much, because when we rest too much, that's when the body starts to atrophy, and that's when pain really sets in, and that's when we don't drink enough water, we're not hydrating the body the right way, and the body does not cycle the proper flow. And when we do sit, this isn't a natural flow state for our body. We're actually pulling right here at our hips, we're pulling behind our knees, and we're not putting function into the body to actually motivate itself to be in motion. So when somebody is sick or injured or not healing properly, we don't want them to just be sedentary and laid up. We want them to take action, go see the chiropractor, talk to them about the things, because one of the things that most people don't understand is subluxations are mental, physical, chemical, and emotional. So when people have these type of like injuries, it's not just the point of contact that's injured. They're having a spiritual component to this. They're having a mental impulse because of this, and they're having an emotional impulse because of this. So the chiropractor can help remove those different layers of subluxation, allowing that body to come back into what the medical industry calls homeostasis.
True that. Mic drop. We're done.
Well, one of our esteemed listeners today is Dr. Dan Golden. I believe Dan practiced for almost 40 years, maybe longer. I'm not sure, but he's down in Colorado Springs. He says the very nature of people who have been inundated with the medical information is the reason DCs must tell the chiropractic story all day, every day. Like, that is something so true to the heart of the matter of what chiropractic is. And that's one of the things you started questioning me before we went live. And I go, well, the reason I wanted to start Chiro Hustles because I was like lambasted with chiropractors, like saying, we need to tell the story. We need to tell the story. But where were they telling that story? They were telling that story in echo chambers. They're saying it to the story inside of their seminars. They're telling the story inside of their clinics. But who was going to tell the story outside the brick and mortar? And that was the thing, is I saw that there was this profession that was so confused with who they needed to tell the story to. They were telling the story to each other. You guys are already drinking the Kool-Aid. So when we already have a group of people already drinking the Kool-Aid and we keep telling the story to them, who is it making an impact on? Mm-hmm. Obviously, you guys have to get your CEs, but who's going to go out there and campaign and politic and be the apologist for the profession and actually tell this story and get it outside the four walls of the profession? That's really why, Chiro Hustle started to spawn into like the megaphone to keep free speech in chiropractic. Because what I found was that there was a lack of consistency and congruency within the messaging, and people started calling themselves chiropractic physicians. I'm like, what the hell is that? Like, when we think about a chiropractor is a doctor of chiropractic. So we can't confuse the public and we can't confuse the people in the profession. Yep. So we have to keep a standard of what chiropractic is and who it's for and what they do, and not confuse people further. I've had this conversation too, Dr. Bob. If I went to you, you might give me a different treatment protocol than the guy down the street. Is that still chiropractic? Of course it is. But what does that do to our public perception? It tells us that there's no consistency in the care models. So we have to start talking the same language. We have to stay subluxation based. We have to know that there's tenets of green books, that there is a history, a science and philosophy that holds up the beautiful profession. And we can't trail away from that. Otherwise, we trail away from the principles of chiropractic.
Got to have that central foundation. Totally agree.
Yeah, man. And I get a little fired up on these interviews. So I appreciate you let me just fire off.
Well, it's good. I wasn't going to stop something that's that great. So with like all of this, I mean, it truly is that philosophy. When we realize as providers that if we do this the right way and speak the right language to the right people, we can get them to understand why we do what we do, how we do it, and then we can start to teach it to the workforce. Like one of the bigger employers in our area, I teach all of their employees mobility and work and posture, and I speak chiropractic. We spent 2 hours today with all the firefighters. Like, it's a big deal. And so now we have a human services group that's like, hey, we have all these 500 employees. Can you come teach us this stuff? But what happens is, as we teach this, they end up saving money and preventing injuries. So it's just, you have to know how to speak that language, and that's all. I mean, that's all it really is, but we have to have the confidence, that absolute clarity to be able to say, this is what we do, and this is how it works, and this is the results when it's done right.
You've made it to Chiro Hustle Live. Sit back and learn from the greatest influencers in the profession. This week's episode is brought to you by Clothes for Chiro, Posture Screen, Chiro Thin, Imaging Services, Zingit Solutions, Chiro Moguls, Rhino Coaching, Local Gold, Dr. Peter Goldman's Zone School of Healing, Go Get Talks, Mahalo Wellness, 5-Star Management, The Goodman Factor, Chiro Health USA, and Fit to Lift. Let's hustle.
You know, I think what you're saying is so important. The better the system, the more effective the outcome. The easier it is to understand, the more compliancy. Once we have compliancy and outcomes, it saves people money and makes more money.
Ooh.
Like, that's a no-brainer, right?
And you can reproduce it then.
And then it's reproducible. It works for the gold mine. It works for the firefighters. I don't know what other type of businesses you guys work with, but it probably works for people that are like working in the service industry. It probably works for people that are working in auto mechanics. It probably works for people in the labor unions. It probably works for any one of those types of outlets.
Yep.
And then it becomes a concierge service to these employees that need care. And one of the things I always say, Doc, is most people don't take care of themselves for 2 reasons. They don't know where to go or who to trust.
True that. And they don't measure it right, too. So that where to go, who to trust, you're not measuring it. And it's just like in daily routines. If a person has a routine, that same routine that's repeated over and over and over is going to create a system around them and to create outcomes for them.
And then what happens is when somebody does fall into this model of necessity, they get bombarded and bullied into the wrong strategy. True. And then they don't know what to do for themselves, and they subordinate to the wrong cause.
Yep.
And I always tell people when I'm out doing my screening works, if you don't believe what we do, you're taking advice from the other people. And if you don't believe that what we do and you're taking advice from them, then you probably don't want to talk to me too much longer, because you obviously have it all figured out.
Yeah.
So then I say, hey, here's our card, take a lap and come back when you're ready. And that's just like us having to stand up for ourselves and not be bullied once again, because I think that what happens is the dogma of the mindset of the person that actually needs the care.
Yeah.
They fall into this trap of thinking that chiropractors are only for neck pain and back pain.
Yep. And it's and us as providers, we get stuck because they're like, hey, how do we take and prove, like, when you do it one patient at a time, you get to tell the story because it's fantastic and you love it and you get to connect with them. But when you can now do it for a group of 150, 210, 567 employees at a time, you just took that savings for that one individual, and now you go over and get to look at these numbered lines on the employer's data. You could be like, that's just saved us $1.2 million this last 3 years. Wow.
And that's what you can open up more job opportunities for. That's when you can start making a bigger impact in the job force community within that business. And that's really what the employer and the business CEO and CFO are interested in. They are interested in healthy people that can make them more money. Yep. And that's the bottom line of business.
Yeah,
exactly. And
employee retention is so big. Like, if you fix employee retention and change the morale of a workforce, game changer for them too.
And that's just it, is we have to start focusing on not just surviving as a chiropractic profession. We have to focus more on the thriving aspects of it. And when you can start making an impact on hundreds of people at a time, I guarantee you, your business isn't challenged right now with income. And when people start realizing that, when they can start talking from instead of one-to-one, but one-to-many, they can start changing the dynamics of how they can grow their business.
That I think is probably the biggest. If I'd said, here's your one takeaway right now, you know how we go out and do or put our hands on stress break massage, or we go out and do screenings or posture screen or scans, whatever it is that we do to go out and market, that's one-to-one, right? That's what you're getting at. Now, as far as one to many, like I just went, and when I'm out there marketing with fire department, 145 employees, like I'm fishing in this pond, but I'm educating every fish what the lure is that they need to start eating and telling them about the bad guys. Because I've literally had the hospitals asking me, what do we have to do to get all your business? And so I don't want that. Like I want to avoid that. And so the whole intention of this is to be able to keep them away from surgeries and really drive this for them to be able to save money, stay healthy, and live a chiropractic lifestyle. But they don't even know they're living a chiropractic lifestyle when they're getting taught this way.
Yeah, that's one of the most beautiful things that you said is like it's all about indoctrinating people with the information without trying to beat them up and let them say, this is what a subluxation is, this is what innate intelligence is. That's conversations amongst colleagues. That's not the conversation that we need to have amongst the people that are looking for a solution. Solution-oriented people want chiropractic. They don't need to absolutely know what a subluxation is or what innate intelligence is. That's water cooler talk amongst like try 1, try 2, try 3. So when we think about like as an education standard for the person, they want outcomes. They want to know that if I bring my baby in here, is it going to help with their colic?
Yep.
Perfect. That's all I want to know. If I come in here with migraines, is it going to help with my migraines? Perfect. That's what I want to know. If I was in an MVA, motor vehicle accident, is it going to help with me recovering and get healthy faster? Yes, that's the outcome that I want. Is my kid in high school football? Yeah. Is my kid in high school football that gets a concussion? Can they come in here and get healthy because of chiropractic? All I want to know. What do I have to pay? I'm signing up. It doesn't matter how many visits it takes. I'm going to bring my kid in here to get healthy. I'm going to bring my baby in here to get healthy. I'm going to bring my teenage daughter with migraines to get healthy. I'm going to come in here with my whole family after we get an MVA. Boom. Game story's over. But people want outcomes. They don't need you to tell them what the subluxation model is. That's old school marketing. Most people just right now, they want to know that is it going to make us healthy? Is it going to have a long-term effect on us? And how can we build this into our lifestyle?
Absolutely. That behavior.
So I know we're coming up on the edge of our interview today. We got about 4 minutes left. How can chiropractic save the healthcare system?
So I'll give you an example. I have as far as research over this last 4 years, that we've been able to roll out small parts of what chiropractic is into the workforce. And this employer, they have been kind of holding back the data for me. And about 2 weeks ago, they walked into my office with the safety and the human resources person. And they're like, hey, we just wanted to kind of review things. We have this problem. We have these 4 chiropractors that are seeing these patients, and we have 7 injured people this year, and we don't know how to get past this. And it's not the fact that you want them to not go to the chiropractor. So they have 8 injuries for the entire year now. And so that's what, $2,000-$3,000 on each of these cases. So I rewind them because, by the way, these are new HR, new safety person. They weren't there implementing the strategies that we did in the beginning. And so what happened was they didn't hear the story. They didn't hear why, how, what came from. 4 years ago, the employer was losing $400,000 a year, $410,000 a year on their medical expenditures with injuries in the workforce. The last 3 years of running, they've only spent $35,000 each year.
Amazing. And what you just said there is a good closing segment for us, because I think that so many people don't know how chiropractic can actually save money. Most people look at chiropractic as an expenditure. And how can I afford that? Well, when I interviewed John DeMartini, what he said is anybody he's ever met under chiropractic care actually made more money. He's like, I did research to show you that when people got consistent chiropractic care and they followed that lifestyle, they actually made more money as an individual. So it's not an expenditure, it's an investment.
That's right.
And it's an investment for the employee, it's an investment for the employer, and it's an investment for that family. And then what happens is when the big idea is set, then it's an investment for that community, that city, that state, that whole demographic, and then it's the whole country, then the whole world. And that's what BJ Palmer laid out many, many years ago when he talked about the big idea.
Yep. Now this is that big idea actually catching traction in the workforce, in the workplace. You backed up by grant money, backed up by research, and it's all been stories, and now I have all that data for you.
Amazing. So if people wanted to learn more about your business and how you help them, they can click on the opt-in link up there above and fill out the little quick form and to join your business and to learn more about Fit to Lift and how they can get out there and talk from moving from one-to-one to one-to-many and get outside their brick and mortar, make an impact in their community and make healthier businesses around you.
So that's not just an opt-in, James. Like that opt-in, they're actually going to get the downloadable, it's a PDF of the press release and the work that we did and then the results. So they could literally walk in with it and show an employer, this is what happened, this is what we did. And so then they're able to literally use that right now today. And the odds are if you have a patient that works in the safety or HR or their own a company, you can share that with them. Just hand it to them and be like, hey, what do you think about this? That starts the conversation. And when you know that's what you need at that moment, that's when our tools at Fit to Lift become of value to you. And it's just starting that conversation right now today.
So what you're saying is the document that they'll get is a barrier of entry into any business. Pretty
much. And you can tell them literally this came from a grant work that was from Fit to Lift. That was literally it was an economic development grant that helped improve the health of the workforce and save money for the employers so that they were able to grow their business. So you're part of my grant when you take and join that and use that PDF.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you being my guest today and supporting Chiro Hustle, protecting free speech in the chiropractic profession. If you guys found value in this interview, hit the share button right now and share it to your community so everybody knows what Bob is doing with Fit to Lift. If you found some value in this, hashtag value in the comment section and tell us where you guys are watching in from. And if you guys are watching us on replay, hashtag replay in the comments so that we know you watched us after our live was finished. And with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and close out because Bob has patients coming right now. They're ready for him to go adjust. So you guys are just one story away. Keep hustling. I'll see you guys on the next interview. Love and appreciate all of you and have a rocking day. See you later, Bob. Thank you so much.
Thank you. God bless.
All right.
Thank you for listening to Chiro Hustle Live. Don't forget to subscribe and check back next week to continue hustling.